Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Roanoke Electric Cooperative Power Hour. I'm Patrice Jordan, Coordinator of Community Relations and Engagement for Roanoke Electric Cooperative. Just a little history for hosting these virtual meetings. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, Roanoke hosted in-person meetings such as Straight Talk forums within our service area to connect with and engage our membership. These forums were led by our board members. Also, Roanoke hosted Roanoke Shawan Partners for Progress meetings to be a partnership and engage our community organizations, which was led by our executive team members. As we continue to engage, inform, and educate our membership and local community members, we have 4 great speakers on our panel today. 2 of my colleagues, Melissa Smith, Roanoke Connect Sales Manager, and Janetta Chavis, the Roanoke Center Coordinator of Community Programs. And 2 guest speakers, Michael Youth, North Carolina Electric Cooperatives, Government and Regulatory Affairs Counsel, and Althea Riddick, the Board Chair of Gates County Commissioners. I will introduce each one as they come forth to present. We will have the Q&A at the end of the meeting, so please use the chat box for any questions. Now, I would like everyone to turn off your camera and mute your microphone. Our meeting will be recorded and you will be able to view it later on our website and social media page. Before we start, I'm going to introduce Alan Speller, our board chairman, to come and give our invocation. Mr. Speller has served District 8 in Berkeley County for the past 24 years. While serving on the REC board, his leadership roles have included serving as the board chairman of Roanoke Electric Cooperative, a deacon board member at Cedar Landing Missionary Baptist Church, and board member of North Carolina Association of Electric Cooperatives and North Carolina Electric Membership Corporation. He previously served as an advisory board member for the State Employees Credit Union and a nominating committee member of CoBank. He has enjoyed serving the member owners and being a part of the development of projects and programs that enhance the lives of those member owners serving on the board. He stated, "The most challenging and rewarding part of serving on REC board is keeping our member owners happy. Considering the distressed economic conditions in Northeastern North Carolina, keeping rates affordable for the entire membership remains his top priority as board chairman. Reflecting on his tenure, he is especially proud of the co-op's well-established tradition of community outreach. He is confident that the co-op will continue to lead the effort of enhancing the lives of our member owners." Now I'm going to turn it to the hands of Mr. Speller.
Thank you, Patrice. Let us all bow. Eternal and all-wise God, it's again and once more, Father, that we want to give you reverence, Father God, to realizing that without you, we couldn't be here today. We thank you for this wonderful, beautiful day that you have created. We thank you for our lives, our health, and our strength. We thank you, Father God, for this Power Hour meeting that we are virtually having, Father God. And we ask you right now to bless the goals and objectives going forward that can benefit our membership and throughout our districts that we serve. We pray for the leaders that are going to be speaking today. And we pray for all those who are the heroes. Bless us all collectively. And Lord, let this day be pleasing in thy sight. Everything we said and done is pleasing in thy sight. These blessings and all others we ask in thy son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Speller, for that invocation. Now we will have our first speaker, Melissa Smith. Melissa is our Roanoke Connect Sales Manager. She manages our day-to-day sales activities. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience in sales. Prior to working for Roanoke Connect, she was a district manager with Verizon Wireless. Melissa currently resides in Ahoskie, North Carolina with her family. She loves doing DIY projects, that's doing it yourself and working in the yard. Now I'll turn it into the hands of Melissa. You're on mute, Melissa.
Boy, I was just welcome everyone. I'm glad that everybody was able to make it today, and I'll be here giving your update on the progress of Roanoke Connect Internet. Next slide. So right now we are very proud of the fact that we have currently hit 1,000 homes with our broadband internet as of July the 12th of 2001. We have completed installing the fiber to the homes in our Jackson 1 area and Conway area. And with that being said, if you are still in those areas and have just maybe decided to hold off on signing up, please feel free to either call into the office or register as we can still provide you with internet service as well. The crews are currently finishing up the installs in the Mapleton area. We connected 132 subscribers so far and still have a few more. So we are really excited about completing that area, which is the Mapleton area. And again, same goes. If you have waited or for some reason didn't know that we were installing internet in your area, please contact us and we'll be glad to get you on the list for internet as well. And we just started working in our Orlando area and are scheduling those installs now. And we currently have 104 subscribers in that area that are set to be installed. Our next phase is going to be the Reduca phase, and we have 150 potential subscribers in that area. So if you live in any of these areas, feel free to either contact the office, myself, my number will be given to you shortly, or go to register.roanokeconnect.com and register, and we will contact you to get more information to get your account set up. Next slide, please. So here is our Orlando and Reduca phase roads. I'll just go through a few of them. In Orlando, Jernigan Swamp, Early Station, Hexalina, Jenkins Lane, and then from 1442 to 1628 on NC Highway 461. In our Reduca areas, we have Saunders Road, Byram Road, Jernigan Lane, US Highway 13 North, and Carter Road. So again, if you or you know any of your neighbors that are on these roads and are interested, let us know. Next slide. Okay, and right here you see we offer several different plans. Each of these plans, and you can also find this information on RoanokeConnect.com on our page, our webpage. We offer 5 different plans. Here are 4 of them. So we can do up to 1 gig, and then we go all the way down to 50 megabits per second. So each of these shows what this particular internet is able to handle or facilitate without any buffing time on it. If you have any questions about these plans, feel free to give us a call, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. But this just kind of gives you a brief description of what we're offering and what these plans are able to run different things with. And the prices are in the right-hand corners, and then you see the plan names: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Next slide. All right, that's my update. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and let us know, and we will answer them at the end of the Power Hour. Back to you, Patrice.
Thank you, Melissa, for that update on Roanoke Connect. We do know that our members are willing and ready for Roanoke Connect internet service. So again, we ask that you be patient because we are coming. Our next speaker, Mr. Michael Youth, will be speaking from our featured topic on economic development, broadband and funding, and giving us updates. As I present to you, Michael serves as Government and Regulatory Affairs Counsel for North Carolina Electric Cooperatives. That's a kind of fancy way of saying he represents the cooperatives' interests at the legislature and in front of various government agencies. Michael has a law degree from Chapel Hill, UNC, and a master's degree in forestry and environmental resources policy from North Carolina State University. Michael has had a front row seat for some of broadband policies conversations at the state and federal levels and was invited to today's Power Hour to share his observation and perspective on broadband in North Carolina. I turn into your hands, Michael.
Thank you, Patrice, and thank you for inviting me to participate today. You know, once upon a time, if someone asked you to list life's necessities, you might have said something like food and water, clothing and shelter. Increasingly these days, more and more people are saying high-speed internet, aka broadband, is a necessity also. Most policy discussions today, whether they're in Washington, D.C. or Raleigh or at the county or city level, seem to focus on overcoming two key hurdles or barriers to getting this new necessity, broadband, to everyone in every community. The first hurdle, how do we deploy broadband infrastructure like fiber optic cable to every home and business so that they can subscribe if they want to? Second hurdle, where infrastructure has been deployed, how do we make it easier for people to actually subscribe to or adopt the high-speed internet service that is being made available? Next slide, please, Brittany. When it comes to deployment, that first hurdle, there are three big things that are proving to be barriers, and you can see them in the hexagons on this slide. First, the bottom hexagon, we have a data problem. Here's what I mean by that. We've seen some people and companies saying their data shows that certain houses and businesses have access to broadband. And then we have other people and companies saying their data shows these same houses and businesses do not have access. Internet service providers, those businesses aren't going to build infrastructure in an area, and policymakers don't want to put grant funding into an area that already has access to broadband. And so getting this data question right really matters. Both federal and state governments are working to overcome this data problem with better mapping of who has access and who doesn't. But this, to be frank, is a work in progress. Beyond data, as you see on the slide, we have the related population density and capital expenditures barriers. Next slide, please. Deploying broadband infrastructure, like fiber optic cable, to the home is expensive, especially in low density rural areas. You have to string or lay more fiber in low density areas to touch the same number of homes or businesses. If you're an internet service provider, this means your cost to serve a single customer is usually higher than in a denser urban area, which means you probably have to charge more in your monthly subscription bill, which means you may not get as many subscribers in an area, which means it may be too risky for you from a profit perspective to even make the capital expenditure to deploy fiber or other infrastructure in the first place. This is a barrier. This map that you see on the slide gives you a low resolution sense of where broadband deployment, the infrastructure, is pretty good. That's the blue areas. And where there is a more general need for deployment, the red and rose areas on this map. Now, I told you we have data problems, so don't take this map to mean that if you're in a blue area, everybody there has great access to broadband, or vice versa in a red area. But this map can tell us we have some areas in North Carolina that are worth focusing on, including some communities in your area. Next slide, please. So when I say there are some areas worth focusing on, what I mean by focusing on is putting some tax dollars to work to overcome the capital expenditure barrier that exists, especially in low density areas. As you can see on this slide, both the federal and state governments are trying to overcome the deployment barriers by making millions and millions of dollars available for rural broadband deployment efforts. And let me be clear, this slide only shows programs that currently exist in North Carolina. Our state Senate has proposed spending an additional almost $800 million to support broadband deployment in the state. And the US Congress is talking about maybe making billions and billions more dollars available across the United States for these efforts. In many ways, in most ways, all of this funding is excellent news. But I want to be clear, there are some drawbacks when something like broadband gets this much, I'll call it love, from so many different angles. One of the drawbacks is that all of the funding programs that you see here are operating independently. And so some are administered at the federal level by the Federal Communications Commission, others by the US Department of Agriculture, and others are being administered at the state level. And sometimes one program can actually serve to block the progress of another program. So, for example, and this is only an example, if a broadband service provider like Roanoke Connect had certain plans for using, we'll say, the North Carolina GREAT program to expand its offerings, but another service provider secured a federal grant under a different program and locked up some of the territory Roanoke planned to expand into, you can see how this could create some confusion and maybe even frustration. The good news is that at the federal level, the two agencies, the FCC and USDA, they are at least trying to make sure that there's better coordination between their agencies. And increasingly, state entities are also looking to coordinate with those federal entities as well. Next slide, please. All this funding for deployment has helped give rise to this map that you see in front of you. And this helps you see, me see, where in North Carolina all of this deployment funding is flowing. And if you think back a couple slides, it makes sense. Most of the funding is flowing into the areas that were red or pink in that last map we looked at. You can see locally, if you look at the bright green in your area, you've got some NC GREAT program money flowing into deployment efforts right here in your communities, including, importantly, efforts by Roanoke Connect. You can also see from this slide that more recently, federal FCC, they call them RDOF funds, and these are the gold areas in your counties, that money is expected to start flowing into your communities from the RDOF funding. Although, truth be told, FCC RDOF funds can be used for deployment efforts that can stretch over 6 to 8 years. And so some of that funding could take a little bit of time to translate into actual broadband access for your communities and other communities. Now, we need to take note again, because if the North Carolina Senate's budget becomes law and the federal infrastructure bills that Congress is talking about pass, we will see significant additional amounts of money flowing into some areas of North Carolina for rural broadband deployment. And that is good news. Next slide, please, Brittany. I'm going to pivot now from deployment efforts to adoption efforts. Remember, adoption was the second barrier or hurdle. And these are efforts aimed at overcoming low subscription numbers in some areas. Obviously, if you look at the bottom hexagon on this slide, as I've just been saying, if someone doesn't have access to broadband, you can't adopt it. So we can understand that barrier. But if you look at the two hexes on the right side of the screen, you also have to think about there are folks who don't have what's called digital literacy. In other words, they don't know how to use the internet or internet-tied devices. And then you've also got folks under the relevancy hex, folks for whom they just don't see the importance of or the need to use the internet, and therefore they're not likely to adopt broadband, even if the infrastructure is there in their community. Sometimes, though, simple conversations with such folks can help them learn about and begin to see the benefits of using the internet for things like healthcare, access to information, education, job searches, business opportunities, entertainment, and plain old human connectivity. Back to the biggest hex on the slide, the cost hexagon, which is a challenge for lots of people. For all the talk about broadband being a necessity, it may be something you or your household chooses not to subscribe to if the price is just too high. All four of these hurdles can lead people and families to choose not to adopt broadband. Next slide, please. You can see on this map the areas in red and pink, including right here in your local communities. There are areas where infrastructure is deployed and there is potential for more adoption if the four adoption hurdles can be overcome or somehow cleared away. Next slide, please. On the cost hurdle, I want to make all of you aware with my limited time here today that some assistance is currently out there. If you need assistance or someone you know does, please, please, please check out the website at the web address at the bottom of this slide. This program, which began rollout a few months ago, can provide up to $50 per month for a household's internet bill. Next slide. Finally, I want to acknowledge that most of the information, the slides I've shared today, were created by the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. This is a great resource if you're interested in broadband in North Carolina. This agency is a great resource. And I want to make clear, if you liked the slides, NCDIT deserves the credit. Patrice, thank you again for inviting me to share some information with you today. I hope it was helpful, and I am really excited to hear what Dr. Riddick, who's up next, has got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for giving us those updates on the funding and proposal. Yes, we will have Miss Dr. Althea Riddick, which is coming up next, and she's going to be focusing on broadband impact on economic development. Dr. Riddick, she's a native of Gates County. She is the chair of Gates County Board of Commissioners. She served 9 years as Chief Academic Officer at College of Albemarle, retired as Registrar, Associate Vice Chancellor for Continuing Education from East Carolina State University in 2020. She has a doctorate in education with a specialization in higher education leadership. Also experience in continuing education program development, small business plan, and entrepreneurship. I'll turn it over to you, Dr.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Michael, for putting me on the hot seat to bring this thing on home. But I am excited about talking about broadband's impact on economic development, and I'm going to try to do a little different take on it. And the comments I have during this panel discussion is from research, experience, and common sense, which is short sometimes where I live anyway. And that's in my house, not in the county. So don't y'all start. Next slide. Now, I want you to pay attention because what I'm going to read is not all the presentation for each one of these slides. I have notes and I didn't want to read to you, but I start off reading to you so you'll pay attention that you won't miss something. But broadband will directly impact economic development in rural communities by improving the quality of services needed to retain current citizens and attract new citizens, by decreasing the need to drive out for goods and services, by providing opportunities toward becoming an active, vibrant, and more health-conscious community, and providing economic opportunities to increase the tax base. There is a positive relationship between broadband expansion and economic growth. However, I put to you that broadband availability and economic activity may be a more accurate description of what usually occurs in small rural communities and counties. And economic development correlates to the quality of life of the citizens living within a certain geographic area or community, but is more targeted to activity than full-blown economic development. So words and phrases matter. Rural counties lack the population density. You've just heard that. And I've been hearing it, that we don't have the population density to make it cost effective for the providers. Therefore, if you work towards stabilizing population growth and smart growth, broadband becomes impactful and cannot be left out of the equation relative to causal or causal relationships. Broadband should be in a county's strategic plan. Rural communities may have the water, the sewage, the electricity, the phone line, but when people are considering moving into your communities and businesses are considering expanding or relocating, the new question is, do you have broadband? All counties provide services to their citizens, but not all counties can provide the new utility called broadband. Therein lies one of the issues, trying to make broadband into a one-size-fits-all, and it may not fit. The implementation must be strategic and oftentimes unique to the natural resources and terrain of the county. The project is too expensive not to be well planned and methodical. The direct economic benefits to residents appear to be limited. The impact is there, but it is mixed and not directly felt oftentimes by the citizens. But an assessment may indicate that the quality of life in our communities affect the stabilization or growth in population and may lead to increased density, increase in positive economic activity. An opportunity to attract the grocery store. I keep hearing about grocery stores and partnering to build a senior center and other services and facilities citizens may desire. It all hinges on the availability, oftentimes, of broadband. Next slide. Now, economic development. It enables rural communities as they strive to develop, attract, retain, and expand businesses. It improves the productivity and profitability of small and homebound businesses and allows those businesses to compete in local, state, and sometimes global markets. Broadband is essential to expansion of diversification of many types of businesses that may be unique to that county, such as agribusiness, agriscience, forestry, and tourism. As small businesses expand digitally, there may be opportunities to increase the workforce on an appropriate level, thus increasing sales, leading to increased tax base for the county. Local government services assist local government agencies in improving services. Now, the last 18 months have been hard on agencies striving to safely serve the public amid the sharp increase in demand for services during a pandemic. Broadband is essential to government agencies as they position to improve quality of services, lower costs, improve internal operation, making it easier for staff to work collaboratively across departments, as well as move appropriate customer services online. All of this is essential to local governments to move their county. Education. It opens classroom walls. We experienced that during the pandemic. Broadband opens classroom walls and provides students and teachers with access to an array of resources, text-based materials, and interactive lessons, and it further expands access to all students. But only if all students, no matter where they live, have affordable access to broadband. Students should not have to leave home to access a service that should be available utility. The quality of a county's school system is one of the most important factors that potential residents with school-aged children use in deciding if they want to become residents. And again, broadband becomes a factor in the quality of life and growth potential. Now, residential property development is a revenue neutral generator. You're going to end up paying more for services for those families than you may collect in property taxes, especially if you are trying to maintain taxes and fees at an acceptable rate. We all went through a pandemic and we saw what it meant when students could not attend school. And then we had to figure out in rural counties, how do we do that? Money everywhere, funding everywhere, and everybody scrambling, trying to make the best of what they did not know. So broadband became front and center, and it's going to stay front and center. I put to you that if I had broadband back in the day, I'd have been a Rhodes Scholar, because I've had access to things right at my fingertips. And now students have it at their fingertips, but it's not accessible and sometimes not affordable. Next slide. Now, healthcare provide remote access and clinical services. We know that in rural areas, it's hard to find or keep a doctor within driving distance within that county, especially if you're so rural, because the tax base can't afford it. The doctors don't want to stay there. They'll stay there just long enough to get experience or pay off the debt or pay off the service opportunity that they signed up for. And they will run to the next available opening where there is a livable wage. So what do you do with healthcare? Well, it is almost impossible to access health and clinical service without broadband, because broadband is supposed to be always on. So it makes it possible for patients to receive cost-effective access to quality health care. It allows doctors to monitor patients through innovative home health services. It avoids expensive doctor visits and house calls from healthcare professionals, and it provides real-time feedback by those electronic medical records. Now, I know sometimes we talk about literacy, that people don't understand it, and they don't. And we don't help them by talking techie talk. We don't help them by making it so hard for them to understand what it is they need to help themselves. Broadband can afford us that opportunity by providing those literacy opportunities. In Gates County, we have a Band North Carolina grant that we're going to start teaching literacy to our seniors, called Senior Tech. That's fantastic, because they don't understand. And at their advanced age, they're going to need to understand that there's no longer a need to drive out to the doctor. There's no longer a need to just go to the pharmacy. You can order your medicine. But first, they have to understand. Public safety is indispensable to interoperations. Again, the pandemic pronounced that. Broadband is indispensable to interoperation, especially wireless broadband. The interoperability of police, fire, health, and other agencies that protect and serve the public day to day and in a crisis is essential. They must have systems that can communicate in real time and the dependability of the communication network. The early warnings, public alerts, disaster preparations, remote security, and monitoring backup systems for public safety are not optional in this day and time. But too often in small rural areas, broadband is not in the budget because it's too expensive as a standalone budget item. Then you have telework. It provides cost savings to commuters and businesses. Most of us experienced that. We were locked down for almost a year, and we worked from home. And that was very interesting. Those of us who had broadband, we just got on and did what we had to do and shut down and put some clothes on and did what we wanted to do. Those that didn't have broadband, they had a time. And I heard the stories from my staff when I was working, but I can't log on. I didn't know whether it was true or not. Sometimes I thought you just didn't want to log on. I didn't tell you had to work from 8 to 5. You got 24 hours. What's the problem? But the problem is everybody didn't have the same accessibility needed to telework. The pandemic really exposed many of us to the inefficiencies and ineffectiveness of a lack of broadband connectivity. Broadband allows employees and employers the opportunities to live and work in locations away from brick and mortar. And telework saves millions of dollars for employees and employers. And many of us became unwilling Zoom presentation stars, but we saved money, we saved time, The corporation and businesses decrease overhead expenses, and many of us increase the efficiency of effort. So what am I saying? When we talk about economic development in rural areas, sometimes it's not that big corporation. We can't bring them there. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the natural gas. We may not have the sewage. We may not have the water pressure to bring those big companies or even a middle-sized company in, but we do have the opportunity to expand and enhance what we have with broadband. And when we do that, people stay, they come back, they come through, they stop and spend money. And next thing you know, the other businesses, those small businesses, that grocery store are going to see, oh, they're growing. They're not stagnant. They're not losing population. Now we have to have a balance of that. You just don't want to grow. It has to be smart growth. But sometimes we get caught up in phrases and terms and not look at where we are. And I can tie that to when I was at the community college system. I did my dissertation on the rural community colleges and the effect of retention. It's not the same as in a big or dense population, such as a Rocky Mount or Raleigh or Mecklenburg. They're different. So you have to treat them different. So you have these small counties. Where are they situated? What are their natural resources? How can broadband increase or improve the quality of life so that people stay? In the meantime, we have to do what we have to do. Final side. So how can we engage positively in the conversation? Counties are operated by citizens' tax dollars, as well as grant funding opportunities. However, we must move from thinking most improvements are a cost when actually it is an investment in the future. Nothing is free. In the rural communities, oftentimes people think about their tax dollars as in their pockets, and they don't want to spend anything on anything that they don't understand. And they don't understand that if you don't invest in your own future, you're going to be left behind. There's no such thing as catching up. I'd rather say you're keeping up, or you, more than likely, you're just moving forward. I tell the commissioners all the time, we're just moving forward. You can't go back in history. You don't want to live there. Nobody's home back there. That's history. You don't live there anymore. So we have to get a mindset that we're going to have to invest in our own future. So how can all of us participate in the future expansion of broadband? We have to have visionary patience. It's going to take time to resolve this problem, this challenge. We're going to have to do one thing at a time. It will take a focused vision, a viable strategic plan, and time to address access and affordability relative to providing broadband to as many citizens as possible. And procrastination is not a friend of innovation. Procrastination takes all kinds of shapes, meetings upon meetings upon meetings, talking about things that we don't understand, relying on someone to sell it to us instead of partnering with us. And I'm talking about small rural communities. We have to decrease personal interest and increase participation for the common good of our counties and our communities. I may not need broadband, but my neighbor needs broadband. So I don't mind paying my tax dollars if it's going to improve someone else's quality of life, keep them in the county, attract more people to the county, encourage the students who are graduating to come back to the county and invest in the future. It's just that vaccination. You know, we all got vaccinated, I hope, but we still have a ways to go because we want to protect each other. So we just can't say, well, I'm vaccinated and that's it. So you can't just say, I have broadband and that's it. If you leave your house and go down the road, you might not have it 15 miles from where you are. You dropped the call. So it's very important that we understand that. We have to participate in our own success by engaging in the work. We have to engage in the work, not just talk about the work. We have to engage in the work and have some outcomes that are tangible for people can see it and see that we're moving forward. Maybe not at a pace that they are pleased with, but we're doing what we can. And finally, we got to hold all elected officials, local, state, and federal officials accountable for appropriate, actionable policies and processes necessary to resolve the digital divide, not just building a bridge to another bridge to another bridge. Michael talked about the legislature. I had the opportunity today to talk to the governor. He visited Gates County, and I took the opportunity to ask him. I implored him publicly during my comments to the crowd that was there to push House Bill 815 so that counties may provide grants to unaffiliated, private, and nonprofit providers of broadband service for the purpose of expanding broadband services in underserved areas in our counties. What the counties need exists. We just need the opportunity to help shape our own future with the partners that are willing to work with us. It doesn't make sense that we have millions of dollars, they said billions of dollars, either coming or here, and we don't know what to do with it because we're not having the conversation with the people who are engaged in their own future, or they are engaged in their own future and they just don't understand. So as an elected official, as the chair of the board of commission of Gates County, I'm just not a ceremonial person. I just don't gavel in the meeting and gavel it out and go away for 30 days and come back again. We have got to have people on the ground that are talking broadband. We have got to let the citizens understand that no, we may not have that grocery store now, but if we have broadband and increase your quality of life, increase the quality of life in your county, and people see that, they will stay, they will come. That density will improve, and you can bring in those other services and facilities that you need. Full-fledged development, I pray so. But in the meantime, we got to have economic activity that leads to the development, doing one thing at a time. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Riddick, for those updates. Definitely some great information that you provided. Next, we're going to have our speaker, Janetta Chavis, speaking from Community Solar Access through the CARES Act funding. Janetta Chavis, the Roanoke Center Coordinator of Community Programs. She has worked in various capacities throughout Roanoke Electric over her 16 years with the co-op. Her most recent position was Supervisor of Member Services. In addition to her leadership role for Member Services Representative, cashiers, and team leaders, she also spent the past 2 years working on projects under the Upgrade to Save and Solar Share programs. The time and efforts in these areas have positioned her for her current role as coordinator of community programs. Her primary focus in this capacity, overseeing Upgrade to Save and Solar Share projects as she continues to serve and meet the needs of our member owners. I turn it into your hands, Janetta.
Good afternoon, everyone. I truly am honored to participate in this forum with our esteemed guests, Michael Youth and Dr. Althea Riddick, in sharing the topic of economic development. Community solar. What is it? The U.S. Department of Energy defines community solar as any solar project or purchasing program within a geographic area in which the benefits of a solar project flow to multiple customers, such as individuals, businesses, nonprofits, and other groups. Community solar projects expand access to solar energy for all, including, in particular, low to moderate income customers most impacted by a lack of access, all while building a stronger, distributed, and more resilient electric grid. Community solar is a gateway to the economic and environmental benefits of solar energy generation. And according to the DOE, community solar is rapidly growing across the nation, Roanoke Electric included, thanks to the CARES Act, the North Carolina Clean Energy of Technology Center, and North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. Next slide. NCCETC, working with NCDEQ, has received $166,400 from the Federal CARES Act to support low to moderate income member owners' participation in community solar. $50,000 of that 166,000 plus has been given, Roanoke Electric has received it through this program to provide prepaid subscriptions for 37 low to moderate income member owners of $15 per month for 10 years. In addition to my brief introduction into community solar, I'm also using this platform today, our Power Hour, to introduce this project to our community. How will it get started? We will be reaching out to member owners enrolled in the Solar Share as well as Upgrade to Save programs for participation. Priority will be given to the first 37 low to moderate income respondents. Income eligibility is determined by energy assistance received from local qualifying agencies over the past 12 months. And the solar capacity that will be used for these subscriptions will be provided by Roanoke Electric and a partnership with NC Electric Membership Corporation. Next slide. And as I've indicated, this platform is our official kickoff of our project and marketing it today. I will also, as of next week, be releasing a press release informing the communities that we serve and our member owners that participate in the Upgrade to Save and Solar Share programs of this project, and offering them the opportunity to allow themselves to participate. They will also receive an offer letter with the flyers, one of the flyers. Another will be used in our social media. And at the end or towards the end of this project, which the deadline is September 30th, we will be featuring an article with testimonials in our Carolina country, probably around September. This concludes my presentation, and I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you, Janetta, for that update on the Solar Share. I'm gonna now ask all of our presenters to turn your cameras on for the Q&A. And we do have some great questions in our chat box for you all. So if all speakers can turn their cameras on. All right, thank you all. All right, I have one that's question is, and this is for Michael. Is there a website we can go to so we can see by putting in our address if we fall into one of the funding zones? And I know you did list one website that I saw. You on mute, Michael.
Looking for the unmute button. The answer is yes. I don't know whether this is a perfect answer. I will tell you the web address right now, but then I'll send it to Patrice and maybe she can share it in written form. The website is nconemap.gov/pages/broadband. It has some great maps where you can see what areas fall into current grants, what areas have good accessibility, bad accessibility, and I think that's your best resource for answering that question.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I'm getting some that's actually, I'm seeing your question pop up, but it's not showing in the chat box. So I'm going to give you a chance to unmute your mic, but give me a few minutes, okay? Let me ask this question, and this is for you, Melissa. The fiber cable that runs on the power line behind my home between Jackson and Conway over the 9 months ago. And they're asking, why is it taking so long to get connected to their home? The cable is already there, the big cost. If you connect people, you are starting to get subscribers and associated revenue. Can you speak to this question? And we have two similar questions to it.
I can. I was actually doing some research while we were having our other presenters present. believe the information that I've received, and if this is incorrect for the 3 questions, it is on Fire Tower Road. You do see the cable on the light line there. Unfortunately, it is not connected to any active fiber. So what that means is when we first started this build with the previous company we were with, this fiber was ran and placed, but it wasn't actively connected to a hut yet, which is where the internet comes from. I'm trying to explain this in like the best layman terms that I can to make it easy to understand. So you do see that line there, but it's not connected to anything that's going to give it any power to give you internet currently. We are aware of this Fire Tower Road and the subscribers that have showed interest in it, and we are discussing a way that we possibly could bring it to you, but I don't have a definite answer as of today. I can follow up with the 3 of you if you would like to send me privately your phone number, because I have been chatting with a few of you privately up here. I would be glad to get back with you when I have a little bit more information about that, but it is something that we are reviewing. But so that kind of does answer your question. And I'm sure that it could be quite frustrating knowing that you see it there and you're thinking we can just hook it up. But to answer the question, it's not connected to anything that would give you internet right at this moment.
Thank you, Melissa. And to this one, they was asking, this member owner or community member asking, can they get some kind of timeline as far as the bill out and turn up of the broadband service to the area?
Can I get an address to which area they are referring to?
Okay, all right. So if you can, please reach out to Melissa at Roanoke Electric Cooperative, and I'll email all information afterwards as well to all participants that have asked that question.
So I see Drum Hill Road has been put up here. Give me 1 second and let me.
You went on mute, Melissa. Just I would reach out privately to those who have asked rather than trying to answer the question here. Thank you.
Yes, yes. A number, I'll reach out to you right after this call.
All right. And I know that we have some participants on this virtual meeting. If you can, one at a time, just unmute your mic if you have any questions. We're still taking questions. If anyone have any questions, you can unmute your mic at this time. Okay, do we have any more questions for our speakers?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, if you can state.
I live on Early Station. I live on Early Station Road. My name is Ricky Fire, and we're told by the folks who installing the cable down Church Road that they were coming down our road next, and all of a sudden the cable installs were pulled out, went somewhere else after we had done helped them down there trying to get in areas, pull them out and give them places to park their equipment. And then they were pulled out and went somewhere else. Why would it do that? I mean, it looked like if they were in our area to keep them there, because I know cost of transportation and reset up costs a lot.
Okay, Melissa, do you want to speak today and just give get his contact information and return his call on that?
Yes, sir. Could you give me your phone number or type it in the chat box and then I can give you a call?
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, my phone number.
I think he may be in a bad area. So I have the information from his login, and we'll get in touch with you, sir, after this meeting. Do we have any other questions? You can unmute your mic. Okay. Being that we don't have any more questions, I know it was one that was asked. Yes, this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on our website as well as our social media page. So please, once it's posted, go out and share it. Share it to those that may could not attend today because of the time, or someone that were not available during this time to join the meeting. Great information from all of our speakers. I appreciate each and every one of you all joining us today. Gave us great insight about broadbands, and as they shared from Michael and Dr. Althea Riddick, share updates about these critical funding proposals and offer insights into the potential impact on the rollout of high-speed internet service. And Melissa giving the updates on Roanoke Connect. Again, we ask, please be patient, but of course she is here. So if you have any questions afterwards, please reach out to Melissa Smith at the Roanoke Connect, and she'll have her phone number available in the chat. But the recording, I will send out the recording to all that have participated, but it will be listed on our website and social media page. So if there's no more questions or anything that the speakers would like to leave us with, then I'm going to go ahead on and end this meeting. We're ending it on time, 3 minutes before 3, as we state, this is Power Hour. Great information. So this is where you hear it first. But I do want to leave you all with the thought coming from all of our speakers, as well as focusing on broadband impact on economic development. As they said it best with Michael speaking on the proposal and funding updates, Dr. Althea, and our local issues and things that's going on, is that we all have a voice. You know, our member owners have a voice, community members have a voice. So let's reach out to your local legislators, you know, make some contacts, let your voice be heard, because you are the member owners, you are our local community members, and we have that voice to get things moving. So thank you all for joining, and look forward to our next Power Hour coming up October the 14th from 2 to 3 p.m. Thank you all, and have a great evening.